Guess what just showed up in my mailbox? Actually, not really my mailbox. I heard the doorbell ring and then I opened the door and there was a package like right in front of the door. But guess what it was? I don't even know what that would be as a song. I've just received the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette. Just opened the box, like just opened it, and I'm going to show you. So this is like for real first impression. We'll do swatches, look at it, all that jazz. And I know Gwen was involved in the packaging, in the colors, in the name, like everything. So we'll look at all aspects of this. First of all, the box. We've got this really shiny metallic white and gold kind of design going on, and then it says Urban Decay Gwen Stefani with what looks like it's supposed to be like metal with screws and stuff. And then the back shows the colors. It gives you some backstory. Gwen oversaw the design of every detail of this palette, from the case, inspired by her love of black and white graphic prints, to the shadows. The inside is like this white and or purple or pink and white polka dot kind of print. And then we take out the palette, and I gotta say, I really love the way that this palette is designed. You've got this really shiny gold going on, and then the front has that same Urban Decay Gwen Stefani logo, and it's actually like brushed metal, and then it has just this kind of like 3D look to it. It's dimensional because it's not just printed on, it's actually that like cut out polka dot plastic insert, so it does have dimension. Open it up. As most Urban Decay palettes, this one does have a magnetic closure, and it has a hinge so you can open it any which way you like, which I always, oh, never mind, it goes to about there and then it starts to fall down. That's okay though, because that's about where, that's about where I would, you know, on the table. You get a full-size mirror, which is always a great thing. Always, Urban Decay always does that, which is phenomenal, and I'm noticing some fallout on my face. Let me go ahead and fix that. Full-size mirror says Magic's in the makeup in the corner. And then you have the eyeshadows. I've seen photos of this all over the internet, and I gotta say, just based off of even looking at this palette's gonna be great for people that are right around my skin tone. So if you are fair skin toned, this palette's gonna be awesome for you. I'm thinking that darker skin tones are gonna have a hard time with it because there are so many cool, not cool tone necessarily, but very light shades that might not work. I mean, if you think about it, Gwen Stefani is pretty pale, so this palette being centered around the makeup that she wears, this makes sense. This palette wasn't designed for all skin tones, do you know what I mean? So that's just something to keep in mind, that it's definitely centered around a pale, blonde, beautiful woman. I know a lot of people were, myself included, when I first saw the picture of the palette, kind of disappointed a little bit because it did seem kind of boring. It seemed like very neutral shades. You know, when you think Gwen Stefani, you think like the crazy hair that she's had in the past, the bright red lip, which I know they're coming out with the lipsticks, but that's not until the spring. And you just think very vibrant and just crazy. And this palette's not that. But if you think about it again, her eyeshadow is always pretty tame. It's always pretty like Marilyn Monroe style with like the cat eye and neutral kind of colors, so it makes sense. Looking at this, I am seeing 3 mattes, 4 mattes, 5 mattes. That's a lot for an Urban Decay palette. When there's a third of them are mattes, that's unheard of for an Urban Decay palette. 2 satins, 3 satins, and then 5, 6, 7 shimmery colors. This is actually, I gotta say, it's probably the most well-rounded, texture-wise, Urban Decay palette that has ever been made, ever. I think the Vice palettes have like, what, 2 mattes, and you're surprised that there's even 2. So the fact that a third of these are matte is really impressive for Urban Decay. So let's go through the colors. I'm actually gonna grab my sheet because I have like a little PR sheet that's gonna tell me exactly the descriptions. I mean, side note, how cute is this folder? I wish that this folder existed when I was in like, in school. I would have used it all of the time. Oh, that's cool. This sheet even says like what each color is named, but why it's named that. That's actually pretty neat. All right, so let's go through this and I will swatch them for you guys. So the first color is Blonde. Blonde is a pale beige with pink iridescent shift. And it says it's blonde because Gwen's blonde. So this is definitely a very, very pale beige, definitely cool toned, and the pink shift is really subtle. You know, when I think of like pink shift, like a duochrome, it's more like a strong, very prominent shift. This is very, very subtle. And the color doesn't remind me of blonde. It's very cool toned and it has pink. It's swatching more cool toned than it's looking in the palette. Next is Bathwater, which is a pale beige with gold pearl, and Bathwater is a No Doubt song. Again, very, very pale, more on like an ivory side than gold, I would think, but this is beautiful. I don't know if I have very many shades quite like this. It's not too light, it's not too dark. It's kind of like in its own little, it reminds me more of a blonde shade than the actual blonde named shade. Next we have Skimp, which is a pale nude satin. Urban Decay satins are so nice because they're just so creamy, but you still kind of get that matte aspect. It just has a tiny bit of shimmer, well, like sheen, not even shimmer. This is so, so creamy. It's definitely got like a pinkish undertone to it. This palette is gonna be my new go-to neutral, I can already tell. Okay, the next one is Steady, which is after the No Doubt album Rock Steady, and is a medium rose with metallic gold shift. Oh my goodness, I love this color. It's got a tiny bit of like a peachiness to it, not too intense at all, but it's got this beautiful shimmer and it just hits the light really nicely. Last for the top row is Punk, the music genre Gwen got started in. This is a reddish brown matte. It's definitely more burgundy to me than a reddish brown, which I guess burgundy is kind of a reddish brown in itself, but it's definitely dark. It's swatching more on the brown side than it looks in the pan, but it's very, very smooth and it blends really nicely. Next row, first color is Baby. This is a cool metallic rose. This is swatching much lighter than it looks in the pan, but I think that that's just because it's very shimmery. So it's got a ton of shimmer and it really hits the light, and that would be beautiful on the lid. Next is Anaheim, where Gwen grew up. Light taupe brown matte. This is such a perfect shade. It's like a little, it's definitely a warm taupe, almost like a little bit rosy taupe, and it's so buttery smooth. I'm so happy she put mattes in this palette. I can't even tell you guys. Next is Stark. This is a nude pink matte. This is another beautiful, this one doesn't seem like it's swatching as smoothly as Anaheim did as far as being a matte, but this will be a really good transitioning color. So one of those colors you would apply first to kind of make sure everything blends nicely together. Next shade is Zone, which is after the song Danger Zone and is a medium brown matte. Definitely on the warm side. Oh my gosh, and it blends so nicely. Oh, I'm so happy the mattes are here, you guys. Love it. Last for this row is Serious, which is another of Gwen's songs. And this is a smoky gray with iridescent floating pearl. This one's super, super smooth. This is an interesting shade. It's like a light charcoal. Usually you get like lighter than this or darker than this. Not quite. This is what you want it, like blend out a color for it to be. I really like it. Last row. The first shade is Pop, like her current music. Pale coral with iridescent sparkle. The shade is beautiful. Oh my goodness, so, so shimmery. This is one of those ones I feel like Urban Decay is infamous for, where I can see it being a big fallout problem. It looks really pretty on, it kind of has that foiled effect, but there's just swatching it, there's a lot of flecks going around, so I'd be a little weary of that one and probably use a sticky base. Harajuku is the next shade, and it's one of her style influences. Metallic blue pink with iridescent micro shimmer. This is really an interesting shade as well. A lot of these colors are ones when I looked at them I was like, meh, but this one, they end up being kind of unique, and like, I mean, it's hard to have unique neutrals. Not saying this one is neutral, but it's interesting. This is a very blue toned pink. It's got nice shimmer to it, and the pigmentation seems to be pretty nice. It's not overwhelming. It's like a wearable pink. The next shade is definitely one a lot of people wouldn't consider to be wearable. This is Danger, because we like a little danger is what it says. Deep metallic royal blue with blue micro sparkle. This is beautiful. It's got a really kind of a dark blue as a base, but then it's just got this gorgeous bright blue overlay. This is gonna be a beautiful color to kind of have like how I have the purple underneath my eyes, to put this blue like that, especially over a different color, like a black liner, just to kind of make it pop. It's gonna be awesome. Next, we have 1987, the year no doubt formed. And this is a bright metallic yellow gold. This is beautiful too. This has great pigmentation. It's got kind of like a very light gold, sort of like an old gold underlay here. And it's definitely an interesting gold because it's not too dark. It's weird to me, like I said, I wasn't expecting to feel like this palette had some unique shades, but it does. Last but not least is Blackout, which is Gwen's favorite black shade. The blackest black matte. And this has been in at least one or two. I never can remember what palettes things came out with, but this is a very, very pigmented black eyeshadow. And it's really blends really well too, which sometimes you can find black eyeshadows that just don't want to blend and they end up patchy, but this one just is buttery smooth. So this palette retails for $58. And you know, I'm honestly gonna tell you guys, opening it up, I was expecting to be like, you don't need it, this is so boring, blah, blah, blah. But I gotta say, if you are more on the pale side, I think you might really like this. I'm really glad it has so many mattes, because, I mean, a third of the palette being mattes is not even, that's something Urban Decay doesn't do, so that's really cool. Although most of the palette is really neutral, really toned down, I really like it, and I think that it will end up being a palette that I use regularly because it's not all matte, it's not all shimmery, it's not all one note. And even though it is neutral colors, they're colors that I would wear on a regular basis because of my skin tone. So what it comes down to is this palette was made by Gwen for Gwen. So if you have kind of that same shade range, you're gonna like it. So there's my review. Let me know what you're thinking. It comes out November 22nd, and I'll see you later.